Eredin's Journey. Book 1. Chapter 1. Tracks in the Snow. A gentle breeze announced the coming of more snow as the clear sky slowly sifted through a more clouded view. Among the many rocks and stones that made up the high mountains of moor, a pair of blue eyes were quietly watching. Like smoke, his breath came up in a very faint line around his muzzle. The cold weather didn't bother those that could withstand it. Quietly, as his feet possibly would allow, the young raptor walked out into the open, shaking snow from his back with an annoyed growl. He would have caught that bird, hadn't it been for the larger pteranodon circling above like greedy flies. The flyer's screech could be heard by many, and once the bird heard that, it was long gone before the raptor even could crouch to jump. Growling under his breath, the young raptor walked down the cliff mountain, putting his feet carefully down on each step. He knew how dangerous it could be to lose balance, let alone slip. It seemed only 3 sunrises ago when his young and energetic-filled friend lost his footing while stalking a young iguanodon. Screaming from the top of his lungs, he had fallen down the deep valley. The raptor shuddered at the memory of running through the snow, dodging rocks, for only to find his friend's broken and crushed body at the foot of the cliff. The memory pierced harder than claws, and it took all his determination to shake it off. Lifting his head to the now cloud-gathering sky, he gave a silent prayer to the ancient. May you have swift running, a full belly, and shelter. Shaking his head, the young raptor continued to climb the path. Right now, he would do anything just to get the taste of warm meat on his tongue. Hunting had been getting worse by the days, and the sickness that ravaged the clan made it no easier providing food. Water were no problem. The small stream that ran right between their large cave never froze completely over. And even if it did, the ice was so thin and weak, a hatchling could break it. Raising his muzzle, he sniffed the air. Any sign? Any hint of a morsel? No. There was nothing but his own hunger, and even then he couldn't eat. For back in the clan everyone was as hungry as he was. Only a fair thing to share. Besides, he couldn't bear it should he return home with a full belly, knowing that many would sleep hungry. Picking up a very faint smell, the young raptor would turn towards it, only to growl lowly to himself. It wasn't food he had smelled. It was just a clanmate returning home after patrolling the border. Any luck? The other raptor would call out, coming to a halt. Shaking his head, the young raptor would climb up to stand beside his clanmate. Nothing, he said with a frustrated sigh. His fellow raptor would nod in sympathy for jumping down from the rock they were on. Let's hope the others have been more lucky. Though by the sound of his voice, he clearly didn't have much hope himself. As the 2 raptors made their way down the narrow path, the weighted snow began to slowly fall down. Why are we doing this, Brick? There is no use trying to hunt in this ancestor-wet place. The young raptor would growl, kicking a stone and sending it tumbling ahead. The larger, almost pure white raptor, Brick, would sigh in response. We can but hope and pray to the gods, Eredin. The rest of the journey back to the cave went mostly in silence. With another sigh, Eredin would nod his farewell to Brick and then walk over to where the scavenge pile should be. Like any other clan, the scavenge pile would be where the clans put the leftovers. Not that there were anything worth eating. With growling belly, Eredin would turn his gaze onto the cliff perch above them. Their clan leader would often rest and have ceremonies on top of it. How long had it How long since he had seen his leader? 5, maybe even 6 days ago? A faint cough from somewhere deeper into the cave reminded Eredin that the dreadful sickness still took its course on them. While at first everyone seemed to manage, slowly and painfully they had to face the fact that it would just remain. Picking up the largest looking scrap of meat from the pile, Eredin walked over to his favorite spot in the cave, near the entrance where he could have full view of the valley below and the sky. The Finns described them as meat didn't do much to stop his hunger, but there were those who didn't have anything to eat. Sighing, he gazed up at the cloud-filled sky. Ancestors, why is this happening? If he were waiting for an answer, he would be disappointed. Shaking his head and swallowing what little was left of his meal, he decided that if he were to sit here, he might as well clean his feathers. Though he didn't get far, a sudden cough startled him. Spinning around, only to let out his breath. "Don't do that, please, Cloud." He let out a loud growl at his brother, who in response only chuckled and sat down beside Eredin. "Smooth your feathers, Eredin. I just came to see how you're doing." Eredin rolled his blue eyes. He loved his brother, no doubt, but at times he would much like to be in peace. "I'm fine, just tired," he replied, settling himself down again, continuing where he left off in cleaning his feathers. Cloud was his older brother, though they were barely a day or two apart. It was clear that Cloud was the bigger. Just as any other siblings, they had their arguments, but it were often nothing more than bickering and quarrels that ended more or less in friendly apologies on both parts. Once done cleaning his feathers, Eredin would look up at his now slowly darkening sky. "How much longer do you think he'll last?" he asked his brother, not taking his eyes off the slowly appearing stars. Beside him, Cloud made a ruffled reply as he shook snow off himself. "You mean Sorp?" Shrugging slightly, the pale rabbit would sigh. "He isn't getting any better, that much I know, but he's not looking much worse either. Ancestors know, maybe he'll make it." Eredin highly doubted that they would manage much longer, and he knew that behind his words, Cloud knew it too. It was all just a matter of time before Menbok's sickness claimed them all and sent them to Krenfir. Many of their clanmates had already left to join the Ancient. Only a clawful was now left to fend for themselves. Eredin knew that their only chance was to change their ways. Worst case, leave the mountains. However, he couldn't just barge out there. Danger lurked behind every rock, and just to get out of the mountains would be dangerous. No, he couldn't think of that. Not now, at least. Rising to his feet, he said his thanks to Cloud for the company before walking into the cave. Stifling a large yawn, he gazed around his clanmates, some already sleeping, though uneasy. The sickness may not have been as harsh if they all could have eaten well, but the gods seemed busy, for nothing had appeared that could be their saving. Eredin glanced down his own flank, his ribs faintly visible, a constant reminder of just how hard life now were for him, for them all. Perhaps it was just all a dreaded dream. Stupid hatchling, he scolded himself. This was real, just as real as the rock-hard ground under his feet. Growling to himself, he made his way towards his nest. At least that was something to look forward to. But as he was within reach, something ruffled his tail feathers. Turning around, he saw nobody but his own feathered tail. Ancestors! Am I going crazy? Shaking his head, he lay down into his somewhat warm and comforting nest, determined to get some sleep and continue hunting tomorrow. Tomorrow he would find something. He will find something. And then, everyone may eat their fill. Even old Thunder could eat his full. With these thoughts in mind, Eredin slowly and surely fell into sleep. "Tomorrow," he promised. "Tomorrow I'll bring home the biggest iguanodon ever." Tomorrow he would finally bring home something worthy of eating. A sign. The cold and freezing winds ran through the valley and mountains of Moor, though this time they didn't bring with them the promise of prey. Making tracking just the more harder with the wind with them, the raptors halted at the foot of a large cliff. From here, they could easily scout and watch the valley below, and any incoming danger would be easily pinpointed out. Turning his muzzle towards cloud-filled sky, Eredin sniffed, only to sneeze when a snowflake hit his nostrils. "Ancestors forbid! You don't need music too!" Shaking his head in irritation, Eredin turned to reply. "I know, Cloud. Now shut up and help me." The two brothers had been hunting since early dawn. Now it was starting to get midday, and still no sign of prey, or even a carcass. Easily, but carefully, climbing down the cliff onto a lower part, Eredin let out a growl as he narrowed his eyes towards the horizon. "There has to be a solution to this," he thought to himself as he scanned the area. It wasn't like the mountains were filled with prey normally either. Living among rocks and falls, Eredin had learned quickly that the mountains homed very few dinosaurs. The mountains of Moor not really being a very welcoming place in the first place, being mostly cliff faces and dangerously enough should one even slip once. He wished to the gods, any gods, would bless them with something today. He was pretty much beyond caring which of the powerful deities took notice of them, though it was painfully clear that Membox had. Bringing the marker would probably yield very little, if anything. The war god rarely took notice of the swift, lean, and speedy. Shaking his head, Eredin sniffed again, as if an unspoken prayer had indeed been heard. A faint smell hit his nose. His eyes lit up, and he turned to Cloud, standing on top of the cliff. "I can smell blood!" he called. The naked, leafless bushes and trees seemed to dash past Eredin and Cloud as they were now racing through the mostly naked mountainside, their instincts telling them where to step, where to go, and where to avoid. Daring to look up towards the sky, Eredin wondered if his silent prey had indeed been heard, or if it was just plain out luck. Either way, he were more than thankful for any scrap of meat they could find on this ancestor wooded place. Skirting a rocky corner, he stopped to smell the air. "Cloud! I think it's this way!" he called to his brother, and they began to climb down the side. "Have you completely lost it?" Cloud's voice sounded a bit further ahead as he walked back. "Not even Jag could climb down there." But Eredin didn't listen. There was food nearby, and right now he didn't bother with Kiranfir himself, so came to take him. Digging his claws into the rocky wall, he slowly but surely made his way down. Somewhere below there was food. He had to get to it, no matter the cost. Suddenly, a loud screech made him freeze. Cloud was leaning over the edge. "Eredin, get back up here now!" Before Eredin could even reply, however, an even louder screech higher up made his blood turn to ice. In the same moment, Cloud announced his fears. "Pteranodons!" Forcing himself to look up, Eredin's eyes widened. 3 large pteranodons were circling them high above. Normally, pteranodons didn't possess much of a threat to anyone but the younger members of the clan, though Eredin had heard stories of enormous winged beings so large they could pick up an adult dinosaur as well. Desperate hunger must have made these tree into taking them as easy prey, and ancestors knew they were. Hunger and sickness had clearly taken hold of the clan, and while both Eredin and Cloud were free from Membok's touch, they were both weak with hunger. Pushing his claws to dig deeper into the rock, Eredin looked down. Could he survive if he just let himself fall? Watch out! Cloud's fear-filled scream echoed as one of the pteranodons swept down, its hungry eyes focused on Eredin. He was exposed, more or less hanging on the side of a cliff. Eredin growled louder to himself. As the pteranodon quickly sped closer, something brushed his side. It's not your time yet, Eredin. Jump! Shaking his head violently, Eredin looked up. Cloud was still staring wide-eyed down at him. Before Eredin could ask any questions, the voice spoke again, louder, sharper. Jump, you fool! Or do you wish to die? Jump! Forcing all logical thoughts away, Eredin let his claws slowly unhook from the cliff face. Above him, Cloud let out a terrified scream. Eredin! No! The wind took hold of his feathers as Eredin felt himself fall backwards. The pteranodon in Cloud's face, slowly disappearing as mists engulfed him, and the world turned black.